And when life knocked you down, jump back up and said, it's not over until I win.
Good morning. Welcome to the Goals Over Benzo's YouTube channel. Last week we talked a little bit about my first running experience with training for my very first marathon. Dove into that a little bit. I quickly realized that running this thing was going to be a lot harder than I originally thought. At first I thought, okay, I'm going to be able to run like 9 miles the first weekend, 18 miles the second, and then just finish it up in 3 weeks on the third weekend. That wasn't the case. I got a 7-month training plan and I stuck to that training plan religiously. When I first started diving into the world of discipline and self-improvement, whatever I wrote down that I was gonna do, I did. Like it was the law. There were no excuses in those days. And so I want to talk about a quote from a favorite motivational speaker, Eric Thomas. And what he says is, don't cry to give up, cry to keep going. And so I'm going to get into that a little bit more. What was so good about this training plan was that it wasn't too much to take on at one time. It did a really good job of building your way up slowly, building that tolerance up, learning how to get used to lactic acid in your legs, and eventually the process of your legs not even having lactic acid anymore. So it started off with like 2 miles and then eventually worked up to 5 and 7, 9, so on and so forth. So when I would be running like a 9 miler and I had just done a 6 miler before, a couple of days prior, it was like, okay, well, I can definitely do 9 miles because I just only 6 miles. There's only 3 miles less, and I just did that, a couple of days ago. So I was able to stay in the moment and not get ahead of myself with the training. Like if I was doing 9 miles and then in a couple of days I had to do 13 miles, I was really good about not focusing on how the hell am I going to do 13 miles. All I got to do is these 9 miles, and 9 miles is only 3 more miles than 6. And I remember the first time that I did a half marathon, when I got to the end of it, I was like, dude, I have no idea how I'm supposed to do that twice and run a full distance marathon. But my mentality was like, I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it, man. I've gotten this far. So the reason that I wanted to bring up that don't cry to give up, cry to keep going quote was because at this time when I was training for this marathon, I was, of course, as you do when you run a marathon, you want to talk about it. So I was posting my progress into like benzo withdrawal support groups, and most of the feedback, I would say pretty much all the feedback that I was getting was very positive and supportive. There were some comments that I think, it's not that they weren't supportive, they were just they were misunderstanding what was going on, because they would see like, oh, okay, this guy just ran 13 plus miles. He must be feeling really good now. And so they would comment. They would be like, oh my gosh, you must be, congratulations. You must be feeling so much better. And the truth of the matter is like, y'all, I cried every day for 2 years straight. I mean, at least one time every day for 2 years straight. I was super depressed, man, going through that spiritual holocaust. Even when I was running, I mean, the serotonin, running was the only way I could get that serotonin going in my body, but I was still super depressed. And I was still so terrified. I mean, just to get out on this little stretch of road, I even actually had to have my dad call my aunt and say, hey, please don't talk to Justin when he's running up and down the road, because for some reason he's too scared to talk to people right now, and is discouraging him from wanting to get out on the road and run. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And I would be running on this road, and like, I was in the practice of listening to positive, powerful music, but a lot of times I was listening to very depressing, sad, emo music about suicide, and because I could relate with that. And something about that was actually a lot more comforting than listening to somebody talk about triumph, because I wasn't feeling very triumphant. And my mind, good God, my mind was all over the place. Like, it felt like the way I compared it to was if somebody took a snow globe and just shook it up. And then that was my thoughts, just all over the place. And as y'all know, that can be just so freaking maddening. So just trying to stay centered and just run up and down this road, just stay focused on the freaking road, was very difficult in and of itself. The reason I bring that up is because I don't expect anybody in the Goals Over Benzos Facebook group to be necessarily happy, because being happy, being motivated, and being disciplined is totally different from being happy, okay? You can be motivated and disciplined and absolutely miserable at the same time, which is kind of a good thing, because it doesn't necessarily matter how you feel. That's the whole point of discipline, is it doesn't matter how you feel, you just do the thing anyway. So like, your first 2 years, I don't expect you to be happy. I mean, I wasn't happy. Like I said, I cried every day. And the motivational music and the videos that I was watching, they weren't filling me with happiness. They were filling me with the motivation and the grit that I needed to just persevere through the hell that I was in. It wasn't like, oh, happy, joy, joy, joy now. It was like, no, I just have a little bit more war juice to get through another 30 minutes. So if you feel like shit, don't feel like shit about the fact that you feel like shit, because it's normal in withdrawal. And what I am proposing for people in Goals Over Benzos is that it is okay to cry and be miserable, but don't let that misery keep you from trying and attempting the goals that you have written down for yourself. If you have I want to clean my room today, or cook a small meal today, don't let the crying and the misery stop you from doing that. Cry while you're cooking that meal. Cry while you're cleaning your room. That's okay. And yes, I understand some days are just going to be so overwhelming where you just want to, there were days where I would get inside my bed and I would listen to, God, I can't remember the name of the song. It was an NF song. Paralyzed. It was a song called Paralyzed by NF. And if you've ever heard that song, you know it's very sad and depressing. But I couldn't muster up the strength to get out of bed for a few hours, right? And then I would cry, and then I would get back to it. So that's the message of today. If you're going through hell, just keep going. Don't cry to give up. Cry to keep going. And if you are crying today, I would like to encourage you that it gets, at least for me, it got a whole lot easier. Much love, everyone.
And hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain.